Okay, thank you, everyone. I'm really delighted to be here. This is personally the second time that I'm attending the Eden Conference. I'm an academic. I'm a professor for cognitive neuroscience, and I deal with face recognition. And so it's my really great pleasure to be moderating this exciting session on something that is dear to me, deepfakes. So I will quickly introduce each speaker before they give their short presentation. And we have come to a consensus that we would like to ensure that we have enough time for questions. So we would also invite you to ask questions immediately after each speaker's presentation. We have a strict 12-minute maximum for the slides. We're counting down the minutes, and we really want to make sure that people engage between the talks as well as afterwards. And I think that with an hour, we have sufficient time. So our first speaker is Mark Wittfurt. He's at the Innovation Lab at Europol. He's the head of the office, and he is the head of the office for the Innovation Lab's Observatory, where he's responsible for the technology monitoring and foresight. Previously, he worked at Europol's operations department in various roles, and he's going to be talking about criminal abuse of deepfakes. Thank you very much. Yeah, you can clap. Exactly.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you to the organizers for organizing this conference. And also thank you for organizing this panel. It's an important topic, and I'm very grateful that the Innovation Lab has been asked to contribute to it. We live in a world in which deepfakes really challenge our very ability to discern reality from fiction. And deepfakes have been around for a while now, but with recent progress in artificial intelligence, deepfakes have fundamentally transformed into a new threat compared to what they were a couple of years ago. So this AI shift has led to a new era in which deepfakes really are the biggest challenge to reality as we know it. Deepfakes have transformed from their crude beginnings to a quite powerful piece of technology that is capable of influencing major elections around the globe, as well as attempting to swing public sentiment in the context of geopolitical conflicts. So how do we get here? And why are deepfakes again at the top of our agenda when it comes to threats posed by technology? Well, we've identified three key enablers, and they relate to quality, ease of use, and new capabilities. The first and probably most obvious one is the significant increase in quality. Deepfakes have, over recent years, increased to the point where a lot of the typical giveaways of deepfakes are now no longer visible, and we've reached a point where we have high-resolution deepfakes. A second and much more concerning from our perspective is the extreme lowering of the barrier of entry to producing deepfakes. If you remember, a few years ago, the state of the art of deepfakes was exemplified by a Tom Cruise deepfake that was produced by an individual. And back then, he needed a whole database of pictures of Tom Cruise's face to feed a model quite laboriously in order to produce a number of short video clips. So all in all, this whole process was rather cumbersome. Today, it's never been easier to produce deepfakes. We have a number of apps, of websites, and software solutions that make it possible with just a couple of clicks and one picture of the target to produce highly realistic, convincing-looking deepfakes. And they're not just legitimate solutions. They're also tailor-made deepfake solutions that are aimed at producing explicit, illicit content. So the Clothoff app is one of the most famous examples, but it's just one of many. And these types of solutions are often hosted in jurisdictions that are outside of our control, which means that it's very difficult to enforce any regulation. What this has led to is that deepfake porn, the production of synthetic, explicit, illicit content, has spiraled out of control and led to an epidemic of deepfake pornography online. And it's not just celebrities and people in the public spotlight that are targeted. Increasingly, deepfake pornography is also arriving in schools around the world. In a recent case last year in Spain, for example, a high school student produced explicit, illicit content of his female classmates in order to blackmail them. And even though detection is important, the damage is often already done once the picture is shared, even if it's identified as a fake. And then finally, advancements in AI have led to a number of new capabilities. These mainly make deepfakes more diverse than ever before, in addition to increasing their quality. So one of the most notable developments in this regard is the development of live deepfakes, which basically means that it is possible now to create a deepfake in a live setting. So instead of having to produce an image or a video in advance, you can now do it in real time, where the deepfake reacts in real time to gestures and facial movements of the person impersonating someone else. It's not a hypothetical scenario that this could be abused. Earlier this year, we saw a major case in which a financial worker paid out $25 million after a video call with who they thought was their CFO, but who turned out to be a criminal using a live deepfake. And it's not just about visual appearances either. Cloned voices or voice deepfakes are becoming increasingly popular because they're really convincing and very easy to produce. And especially criminals really like this new type of technology because it allows them to carry out their scams in a much more convincing manner than ever before. So where do we go from here? Well, first, we see that deepfakes are improving in quality. And this is mainly due to the improvements in quality, the ease of use, as well as, of course, the new capabilities that I've just demonstrated. But we also have to recognize that it's probably impossible to offset the mere existence of deepfakes because we will simply have to deal with the reality in which we can no longer be certain about what we see. And then finally, technology and detection is part of the answer, but it's not the entire solution. We have to work also on educating the public as well as reinforcing trust in public institutions. So going forward, we can expect deepfakes to continue getting better and to continue posing a greater threat than we have seen in the past, which leads us to believe that deepfakes really are the biggest challenge to reality as we know it. But are they? Because in recent years, artificial intelligence has improved to an extent that it's sometimes difficult to really grasp the pace with which AI is improving. So this video, for example, shows AI-generated dashcam footage, which looks quite crude. But 6 months later, we have this, which is a significant improvement to the previous technology. And if you go even further to an AI model that was released just a few weeks ago, we're getting to the point where we can produce synthetic videos from scratch that are close to impossible to distinguish from real footage. So this leads to the emergence of what we refer to as synthetic realities. So synthetic realities really describe AI-generated content that is getting harder and harder to distinguish from the real reality. And this type of generative AI is not just used to demonstrate what technology is capable of. We have on an almost weekly basis a steady stream of new AI models that are being released that demonstrate new capabilities and use cases. One of the most recent releases that is relevant in this regard is Elon Musk's AI Grok 2. Grok 2 is a multimodal AI system, which means that it can transfer different types of input and output. And Elon Musk himself has called Grok 2 the most fun AI in the world. I want to show you what this means when Elon Musk calls his AI the most fun in the world. This is a picture that he produced after the presidential debate in which Donald Trump falsely claimed that Kamala Harris is a Marxist, to which Anonymous then responded with a picture of Elon Musk in a Nazi uniform. All of these pictures were generated with Grok 2, Elon Musk's AI, but it can do more than just generate pictures. We're reaching the point where we have uncensored AI models with limited to no safeguards that are capable of producing more and more realistic looking synthetic footage from scratch. We do not need real videos to then superimpose a deepfake onto them. We can create entire synthetic realities from scratch. And if you look at the progress of AI in recent years, we're really starting to grasp that we're really just at the beginning of this trend. If you look at how many AI models are being released with more and more parameters, with more and more high quality outputs that they can produce, we're starting to grasp that this is really almost exponential progress that we're looking at. So going forward, there is a new world that lies before us, but it's not just a world in which deepfakes are getting better and better. There is a new world that lies before us in which we have to deal with synthetic realities that pose a new threat to us at a scale that I don't think we yet truly understand. Thank you very much for your attention. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Mark. Yes, I already see one arm being raised.
Yeah, my question would be whether in your work you see that there is any business model, or what is the business model for these types of developing these technologies? There's a lot of resources that go into it, but we see now also with other generative technologies such as ChatGPT that there's really the question from people who invest their money in that, how that money is ever going to come back and return. So in this context, what would be the business model that keeps fueling this rapid development?
So I assume you're talking about the commercial application of deepfakes rather than the criminal abuse, because there's also financial incentive there. But AI is such a, and I think there's been plenty of discussions at this conference as well as in recent years, has shown the wide variety of use cases it can facilitate. And generative AI is one of the flagship products of this development. So it's created a whole sector of industry in itself that is drawing investments in research from tech companies, but also in academia. We in law enforcement, we just recently released a report on the impact of AI on our work to explain how it can be useful for us. So it's really a transformative technology. But what we want to also point out is that there are a number of threats related to it. And as you mentioned, the financial incentive, I just want to add that it's an entire new criminal business model to create AI systems that remove safeguards, that make them available to other criminals, specifically to facilitate illicit use cases. And this is a real threat that we're faced with. When I showed the chart of the AI models that are being released, there are more and more that can just be downloaded, that don't need a subscription to OpenAI or Google or Microsoft, that can be downloaded on your own device and then customized in a way that they facilitate really, really dangerous outcomes. This is something that is exploding now, and we're just starting to explore just how big this threat is.
Any other questions before we move on to our second talk? Okay. I think we'll have enough time for questions after as well. Okay, thank you, Mark. Elizabeth? I'll just introduce you from here, yeah? So Elizabeth Ballou is from the Center for Security Studies in Athens. She's a research associate. She's currently pursuing a PhD in electronics and electrical engineering at Brunel University in London, focusing on the use of artificial intelligence and especially computer vision in the context of unmanned aerial vehicles. So she's actually developing drones that can survey and detect the integrity of structures that are really important. She holds a master's degree in applied economics and a bachelor's degree in economics and regional development. But interestingly, she has vast operational experience in her role as a police major with over 15 years in service. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to your talk. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you very much, Mike. You said everything. Good afternoon. Together, we're going to talk about one of the most fast-growing cyber crimes nowadays, directly related to deepfakes that Mark spoke of. It's online identity theft, which targets not only individuals, but also large organizations with large-scale impact, of course. So the need to mitigate this phenomena is imminent. And in this framework, I will also introduce you to Ethos EU project, in which the Center for Security Studies participates in, and does exactly that, develop tools to detect deepfakes in an attempt to assist law enforcement agencies in their fight against online identity theft. We all have heard this term, online identity theft, and many of us may have already encountered such cases in our professional lives or even in our personal lives. But sometimes it is very difficult, even if we know about it, to recognize it. So this leads also for law enforcement agents to misreport some cases. So let's break it down a bit. What is identity theft? So our ID consists of different elements, okay? Our name, our signature, our banking account, but also our characteristics. Our face, our voice are also part of our ID. So when we use them during our daily lives, everything works just fine. But what happens when someone else utilizes them and even worse, controls them repeatedly without our consent? Then this is what we call ID theft. Now you're gonna think that, okay, we've always had that. Okay, it's not something new. Indeed, we have during all these years, the past 20, 34 years, falsified documents, signature forgery. So what has changed now? As Mark said, now everything is online. That's what changed. So we don't keep our documents in our closet and everything is fine. We don't get to be seen only by person. We are everywhere online, on social or on video calls. We participate in calls, in meeting calls every day. So potentially anyone who uses the web could hack and steal our ID. And maybe we will never know it, okay? So this is online identity theft. Let's see a bit what's going on with the perpetrators and how they achieve to steal our IDs. Social media, of course, and other online platforms. And even if I don't have social media, I'm here now. So a picture of mine or a video could be uploaded somewhere through the conference. So we need to be fully aware. E-banking credentials, e-shops, we do e-shopping all the time. So what would be the motivation? It could be, of course, for money gain. It could be just for scamming, spamming your emails, or even for political defamation when we're talking about politics or celebrities. So we are observing an increase in those sectors. Of course, the financial sector is always on the front page, and political social misinformation, but also a rise in deepfake pornography and something that is, let's say, new to us, to public services. Attempts to hack healthcare system and public sector platforms. I don't know about all the European countries, but for sure in Greece, public sector and public services are not ready to combat that kind of attacks in the platforms. And this is very crucial because we're not dealing with just personal data, but also with sensitive data. And there's a high difference in that because it could have a serious impact in many forms of the victim's life. It could have psychological impact or even delay treatment when we're talking about healthcare hacking. And of course, audio deepfakes. Which are rising very quickly. You get telephone calls and you don't know if this is your colleague or this is your child you're speaking to. And it could also happen in big organizations with CEOs. We discussed yesterday with Micah how difficult it is for human beings to distinguish a fake from a real voice, and especially if we think that you caught by surprise or you're working at that time. So it's really difficult, and this is why it is pretty dangerous nowadays. So let's play a little. I have two audio files. You will hear the first and the second one, and then you're gonna tell me who is it, who do we hear? And then you're gonna guess which one was the fake and which one was the real one. So first one. Yeah.
This is all
Let's try.
purposeful, suspense building strategy.
Be
here.
ready.
Just trying to make sure that everyone's paying attention.
No.
Maybe while
No,
this is
it's a
being fixed,
shame.
can I ask
Yeah.
you a question? Do you have any estimate of like what is the, let's say, damage that is done nationally, for instance, in Greece through this type of online identity theft? Are there any numbers that you could report? Like what is the palpable damage that is created due to this type of?
Not in Greece, but I know for sure that for Europe, the financial impact of online identity theft was like 1 billion.
1 billion.
Yeah, for the year 2022 and 23. So
Okay.
we understand the scale that this goes.
And do you have any information of how sharply this has risen? Because of course, 22 to 23 is a pivotal year, but how was it in, let's say, the 10-year prior comparison? Is it like a, I don't know, a tenfold increase, or could you speak to that?
Yeah, actually, from reports, from fraud reports, yes, they have a high increase. It was like the slope, going upwards after 2020. But as I said, it's difficult to distinguish, traditional fraud and online fraud. And this is also due to lack of awareness within the law enforcement agencies. They misreport, several times. So I wouldn't rely so much on statistics,
Of course.
but they can show a trend.
Man is the only one.
Okay, we have audio.
Thank you. Yeah, the first one, come on.
In fact, man is the only one evil and will soon erase himself by ignoring cubic for day creation. If a man cannot tear a page from the Bible and burn it,
The second one,
to secure the border and stop the criminal gangs, drug smugglers, and human traffickers. It's a tremendous problem.
okay, Jan guessed right, it's Donald Trump. And anyone who would like to guess which one was real and which one was fake? What do you think? Yes. Anyone that has a different opinion? Okay, yes, the second one was the real one, of course, and for another reason as well. There are other indications that show that the first one was fake. It's what the person is saying. Sometimes this is an indication. If you think that your friend that you're seeing there says something that is awkward and doesn't fit, then it is an indication that this is fake, okay?
It did sound very coherent, though, the first one, although content-wise questionable.
Like with Donald Trump, you don't know. So next slide. I think I need some help. Okay. Yeah, and this is the case that Mark referred to. So how did these fraudsters manage to trick this financial worker? By the technique face swap. It is very trending right now, where the fraudsters select a target, they take their face off, and they have a source body to put their facial characteristics on it. So $25 million were transferred to fraudsters in this case. Deepfake video call, which is crazy, yeah. So Ethos EU project. What we're doing is developing some tools and a platform to raise awareness, first of all, and also help law enforcement agencies in detecting deepfakes. They will have a platform which could be either on a server or locally on their PC. They can put the suspected video or audio in there, and the model will predict if this is fake or real. It is under development yet. So I only have a short clip to showcase. It's a demo clip. Okay, this we have one video that we suspect that it's a deep fake, and the other 3 videos we know for sure that they are real. So here we create the project and we input the images. And we tag those that we know for sure as ground truth. So then we will wait for the prediction for the one that we don't know what's going on. It is super user-friendly, as you see. And we have a prediction. Okay, here is 100% prediction that is fake because it's only for testing reasons. We don't expect to see that percentage of prediction. So if you find that this subject here interests your organization, your law enforcement organization, then you can be involved, okay? And we want you to be involved. So this is my email and the coordinator's email, and I'm going to invite you to feel free and email us because within this project we are running also a series of webinars, and there will be some platforms online to give good practices and hacks how we identify threats and online identity theft. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope you found that interesting, that topic. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any question in between? Yes, I see 2 hands there.
Thank you so much for this presentation. It's very, very interesting, the platform that you're developing. What if you don't have a way of knowing if one of the videos is ground truth? Can you identify with, does the tool also work if you only have one video and you want to check whether that's a deepfake or not?
No, I think that would be no good prediction at all. But we think that when someone reports to police such case, you can find, or he can or she can provide a few videos of himself, and maybe we can have some videos only. We can record some videos only for that reason, to enter the tool. I want to notice here that the audio deepfake detection tool does not require to have voice recordings. You just put the suspected recording in and it gives you a prediction. So as I said, it is under development, and I will keep your question, your remark, for our tech partners to try and do something more convenient when it is impossible to get a video. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, and there was a second question close by, I think. Just 1 second.
Thanks very much. I have just a follow-up question, more of a technical nature. Would you think, because it seems like now it would be helping obviously with capacity, I mean, would be more as a reactive tool. So when you have videos to choose to verify, but do you think it could be technically possible to do this sort of automated checking, verification? For example, if it's a person or someone or criminals actually go on social media and posting something, so obviously that's something to discuss with private sector, but technically, would it be possible to do this automated verification before something is posted?
Well, I think it would demand certain capacity or infrastructure, IT infrastructure for that. If I understood well, if you mean that this would be running always. Yeah. So it is a bit difficult technically, but maybe using online servers, we could do that. Yeah, technically. The thing is that it is not how, I don't know if it would be compliant with police procedures to have something like that running, just for precaution. So this is why everything we do regarding data protection issues is after we have a case, after we open an investigation.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree completely. I just wanted to explain that I think if we're talking about deepfake or fake news, there's always some extent, something might be just frivolous, not that important, and then we can go into a very serious crime very easily. So in future, I'm just also thinking about regulation in future. If there is a possibility that certain deepfake or generated video or content actually can cause a very serious risks or threat for population, for example, or in such contexts, or especially violent contexts, that could be, I think that could be, from legal perspective as a lawyer, I think it could be possible and allowed.
Of course. But what we just do now is to raise awareness, is to create a website within this project. A website will be created that gathers automatically from forums and other sites all the things related to online identity theft and deepfakes, so that you can enter there. It's for public awareness as well. You can enter there and see all the trends and everything that's going on in the whole, easy. So.
And there was one more question in the back first, please.
It's very short this time. The tool that you showed us quickly, what's the, I would say, technology readiness level in your plan? Is it more than 6? Or because law enforcement usually is staying cold feet when getting tools that are 6 and less. So what would be the readiness level for this tool? Thank you.
Yeah. Right now? At the end? Yeah, I think it would be at a very good level, because we have another 2 years of developing within this project. So we already have given it, we have provided it to certain law enforcement agencies to test it and give us feedback. So it will get surely better. Now the level exactly, I'm not sure, I don't want to answer because I'm not sure if it's a 6 or if it would be 6 or 7 or okay. But we're pretty confident. We're in the middle of the project right now.
Can I just maybe follow up on that? Is the testing and the feedback that you just mentioned from law enforcement practitioners, is that information distilled somewhere so that other agencies might?
Yeah, as I said, anyone can email me from law enforcement, and we will provide credentials and the server to this platform to test it. Yeah. It's for law enforcement only, yeah.
I have a small question. Can we 100% realize that the program will recognize deep fake? Thank you.
No, with AI predictions, you're never sure 100% that the model is correct. But in police, you integrate these tools with other techniques and methods. You follow, okay? It's not that we will rely only to this product, but it's different when you have something like that to easily access and give you a first glimpse of what's going on here. If this model predicts like 85% that what I'm seeing here is fake, then my approach as a police officer will be whole different. Okay, of course we have intelligence gathering, you know, through investigation. It's not only that, and it may be an investigation going on for months.
Right, thank you. I'd like to get to our last speaker then. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. So our last speaker is Bart van der Sloot. I hope I pronounced it okay. He's an associate professor at Tilburg University and specializing in questions revolving around law and technology, artificial intelligence, and human rights. He is an associate professor, as I mentioned, at the Tilburg Institute for Law, Technology, and Society, and is the editor-in-chief of the European Data Protection Law Review. He also has a dual background in both philosophy and law. And he'll be talking about the legal considerations, I guess, of the things that our previous speakers have talked about. Thank you very much, Bart.
Thank you so much. Maybe it's good to start with thanking the organizers of the conference. I know we're only halfway through, but usually it ends with the organizers at the end of the day thanking the public. But I want to be sure to thank the organizers because so far it's really a perfect organization, the speakers, the moderators, the social events. So thanks to Jan and all the others. I know how much work it is, but it's really perfect so far. So thank you for that. So well, I've basically been introduced already. Let me see how this works. Yeah, there I am. Basically, you said everything already. Maybe one thing I can add is that I'm at the same institute as Ayman Taimour, who spoke recently in the previous panel. She's my PhD student as well. And seeing her perform again today on the stage, seeing how eloquent she is, I'm afraid this will be on my tombstone. Bart was one of the supervisors of Ayman Taimour. And in the same way, I'm overshadowed a bit by my PhD students. I'm also a bit overshadowed by my colleagues, Mark and Elizabeth, who said most things I normally say when I talk about deepfakes. So my own background is in 3 years ago, I wrote a report for the Dutch government on deepfakes specifically, indeed tackling the legal questions surrounding deepfake technology. And one thing we suggested back then is, well, seeing especially the deepfake nude apps and the porn apps, shouldn't we just prohibit them? Because right now the legal doctrine is what we call ex post regulation. So technology is usually free for everyone to use, and then you produce some content and you can even spread it online. And only then does the law enforcement authority come into play, or the data protection authority check whether the content is consensual or not, whether it does harm, and then try to find the perpetrator, which is usually very difficult, takes a long time, and of course the damage is already done. So one of the things we suggest is maybe just try, although that is also very hard, to prohibit these type of apps. So, and then more recently, I wrote a book which is more generally about synthetic reality, generative AI, and how that raises legal questions. And most of the things have already been covered by the previous two speakers, so I will focus on one niche topic, but which I think is hugely important. So why do law enforcement agencies gather data? It's of course also to produce evidence in court. And there I think generative AI has a huge impact. And I've been speaking to a lot of judges recently who are kind of scared about this synthetic reality, as Mark also called it. And the basic point, and this is the only point I will make in this presentation, is it's going to be difficult because there's so much content online that has been manipulated or generated by AI that it's hard to verify what is authentic and what is not. And even the app you described, Elizabeth, of course, the 100% percentage doesn't exist in reality. It's always, I don't know, there's a 71% chance that this is authentic, for example. What do you do as a judge with that information? Do you take it into account? Do you disregard it? Is there a difference in reliability level that you have for civil law proceedings from criminal law proceedings? And these type of questions are now at the heart and mind of judges. So you know already most of the things I will say. Of course, we have the identity theft, we have the fake news, we have, where should I point there? We have theft, the older case, newer case was also discussed. We can generate non-existent persons as well. You know that if you go to thispersondoesnotexist.com, you get every time a new person, which looks highly realistic, but isn't authentic, doesn't exist. You can bring back deceased people back to life, and these are fake audio clips, for example. This is a really old case already, fake audio clip used in court proceedings, parental disagreement over who could have custody, and the mother submits an audio fragment of the father where he appears to be kind of aggressive or abusive. And back then it was still possible to verify, okay, is this authentic or not? But right now, with the more modern AI tools, it is impossible to say that with certainty, right? Added to that, and these are the more clear-cut AI-generated pictures where you can see the shrimp Jesus meme clearly fake, but the forest cabin is already a bit more difficult to discern. And on Facebook, Instagram, etc., there are more and more pictures circulating which you would swear exist but aren't real. You have the additional problem of filters, and there you go. It's not only the content that is explicitly generated by AI or people to deceive others, but it's baked into the technology, right? So the filters is an obvious example, but the right example was the controversy over the photo cameras. And they work with AI now, just the normal cameras. And so when you make a photo of the moon on a foggy night, the picture doesn't come out like a foggy moon, but like a really clear-cut moon, because the AI knows, between brackets, how a moon should look like. Other example is when people took photos of a burning forest. The forest came out green because the AI knows that a forest is green. So this leads to what is sometimes called a post-truth error. And there are predictions that in 4 or 5 years' time, more than 90% of all digital content will be affected by AI in some way or another, right? And when I gave a talk last week for informatics experts, they said this is a stupid prediction. That is already the case, right? And that means something for the legal context, because oh, that goes too quick. Because right now, judges by AI in some way or another, and we have to verify what has been manipulated, how, by whom. So yeah, that's the basic point, right? So we have to maybe think the other way around. Probably it has been affected by AI, and mostly that wouldn't really be relevant to the court case at hand, but that has to be the presumption. And the additional thing, and this was also mentioned a bit by the previous speakers, is that, of course, apart from what is really fake and what is real, the perception of reality and of ourselves also is affected by AI-generated content. So the woman you see is a Dutch celebrity. A deepfake porn was made of her, and she watched herself perform in the video. And empirical research has shown that especially with young girls in high school, if you see yourself perform in those awful videos, even though you rationally know this is untrue, it does something with your perception of self. Right? And the same holds true with seeing fake news. It still infiltrates the mind. And when people discover that they have fallen for identity theft or fake news, they become wary of everyday contact, of even normal news. They think, okay, maybe this has been manipulated too. So there's a kind of endemic distrust. Trust was the key word, but this could create distrust in society and in news and in each other's, in personal contact. So authenticity and reality are the core pillars of democracy, of media. They too have to know whether material is authentic or not. And the rule of law, of course. So I just have 1 minute remaining and I want to keep strict. If you want to read more about this topic or any other, then read the book. And one point I will make is the impact on the rule of law and authenticity of evidence. So right now, the presumption is that everything is authentic unless there are contraindications. And even if people submit inauthentic material, the sanctions are often really minimal. So the evidence gets disregarded, for example. Shouldn't we revise the legal system? And I will go to the last slide. How do we tackle this problem? Well, maybe we should think about additional duties of care for professional parties when introducing evidence. Maybe there should be a greater role for the police, Europol, etc., law enforcement authorities of verifying content before introducing them for criminal court cases. And I know, for example, well, we already had the example, and also in the Netherlands, the police authorities are very aware of this and try to filter what they see as the most high-risk content they receive. Should we have the Forensic Institute, for example, verify all digital content? Well, no, that is too much. That is impossible. But maybe for the really rape, incest, murder type of cases, we should do that. Should we work with additional criteria for admissibility of evidence? For example, only allowing content that has a watermark on it. So that a watermark is basically a logbook, like, okay, this material has been made by that person and has been so-and-so manipulated. Should we introduce higher sanctions, or should there be a greater emphasis on supporting evidence? So these are just some questions and possibilities I raise. I do not have the full answer, but I think this debate is very important to be had. So finally, if you want to get the book, it's for free. So it's an open access book. So you can scan the QR code. You can also buy it if you like a physical copy. It's 20 euro or something. But it's also available online for free. So feel free to spread it and give it to anyone. Thank you so much.
Okay. Matthias is adamant. He really wants to ask a question.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Bart.
I want to, let's say, touch upon the point where you said about like authenticity. So I want to ask the panel in general if you're aware there are, let's say, worldwide initiatives where we try to find technical open standards to make, let's say, content prevalence and also authenticity happen. So there's a coalition about that, and also big companies like, for example, Adobe, BBC are joining these initiatives. And basically the idea is that you have cryptographical functions where you can prove the chain of custody kind of the content and the file. And then you could even, again, let's say, play that far that you say, you put it into the design of a camera, of a Sony camera, for example, but then you have, again, questions also related to data protection, because it would be traceable where the picture was made, and then, again, it depends where you draw the line. So here, again, you see a lot of, let's say, a lot of questions related to data protection, but also, yeah, other areas. And I would be very interested what you think about that.
I'm not sure it's on.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for the question. I think this is the thing everyone is working on right now. And I hope this works. But there are a couple of problems with this. So one is data protection issues. Second is that logbook or watermark or whatever can be manipulated as well, right? So it helps for the majority of cases for people who are not malign, but for criminals or people who are really working to introduce, for example, fake evidence into court, it doesn't help. Another problem is that you put the question of authenticity of evidence in the hands of private actors, commercial firms, basically. So this is a worry. And the final worry I think I have is that every company is now trying to develop their own standards and their own watermarks, et cetera, and they are not interoperable. So again, you see different standards being used, and then maybe some, I don't know how this would work, but for example, a court could say, oh, this is the Leica standards, it's higher than the Adobe standard, so we think it's more reliable. So this only creates new questions, I think. It's a good solution, but again, it raises a lot of new questions.
Can I maybe just follow up on something? Because you said that the question of authenticity is now then in the hands of private companies. And earlier, you were saying that judges are increasingly confronted with this. Is there a general development that legal scholars, judges, people in the judicial system, are they actively either training themselves, receiving training to have the technical knowledge to be able to ask the right questions and press for the authentication that's needed?
Short answer would be no, I think not enough. So I've been asked quite a couple of times by Dutch judges and also European ones, and there's beginning to be awareness of some sort, but this is not enough in any sort. The first time I gave a lecture, they still thought, oh, but I will be able to distinguish a deepfake from. I said, no, you're really not. You cannot do that, especially with the better ones. So there's a long way to go there, but I do think, on a more optimistic note, the rules surrounding authenticity of evidence have always been very loose and sloppy, and there wasn't really any checks. So this might also be just a momentum to say, hey, let's professionalize this part of the law. So I see it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Hi. Yep. Hi, Bart. Thank you very much. I suppose my question really is tying on from this in relation to the authenticity and verification of evidence. I'm just referring to a case, one of the largest sex trafficking trials in Ireland. And the judge in the case, there was evidence presented from the state key witness, which was merely an email, which was fake content. The defense stated that the content was fake. The judge then stood up in court, said to the court, well, how can you prove this? How can I be certain? And it then fell upon the state, and the state were unable to prove it either. In the end, the jury came to a hung jury. They were unable to reach a decision. The case is now back for a retrial, and I know you mentioned the watermark. I suppose my direct question to you would be, what advice would you give to the state and the defence in that case to be able to now go back to trial, and how will they verify that evidence to the satisfaction of the judge and the jury? Because it's a criminal trial, the charges are very significant to the individual. It could be life imprisonment. And clearly, the judge has said that to his satisfaction, the evidence that's presented is not credible. But he now puts it back on the state and the defence to prove that. And I know you mentioned the watermark, but would there be forensic evidence or experts that could be brought in to adduce evidence in the case that you might suggest would be a practical solution for both sides? Because in that case, the state fell down and the defence fell down.
Oh, yeah, thank you. This is the type of questions we will see a lot more, I think, and that's making me worry a lot. So, and you see what the impact is on this type of cases. Yeah, watermark would be a solution, but not right now. So this is for the future. And I think that's, again, where I see it as an opportunity. Let's do it for emails. Let's do it for all the types of evidence we're now kind of presuming to be authentic. And also, let's be clearer on the rules of evidence. Who has to prove precisely what at one point at the stage? Because, again, like you point out, is it on the one party to disprove that it's authentic, or the other party that it's authentic? How do you prove that? Which bar do you need to meet? That's unclear. And the solution right now is exactly as you suggest, is that a lot of people try to get expert witnesses. But again, that raises questions as to the equality of arms, because the state often has more resources than the defense. And in civil court proceedings, it might create inequality of arms between more wealthy people or companies and customers, for example. And there is what we call the expert paradox, which is judges are quite unaware of this, and so experts get heard to testify on that, but judges do not have the expertise to question the expert. So they're just, it's whatever witness is brought there, and they tend to believe it, which makes it dangerous. So to be honest, I'm only giving more problems than you already raised. Yeah.
And one comment on this, because we do have such problems within the police before court to use technology because it's not eligible, or we don't have this in our regulation. Well, we must put this in our regulation. That's the solution. We must integrate technology with law, with legal procedures. So I think this could be a solution if the judging system would integrate in the regulations evidence, quality, and what to believe and what not, what to accept and what not, might be a solution.
Just to, I think the others have said pretty much everything. I just want to maybe add one thing, that this is quite a closed community here that we're speaking in, but we're missing the big elephant in the room, which is the tech industry. We are fighting against a multi-billion-dollar industry that is growing at quite a rapid pace, that is producing these problems that we're now trying to solve from our perspective. But the past has shown that only by working with every involved stakeholder closely together, and that goes beyond just our community, we can really make these fundamental changes that are necessary. So I would also question, what is the value of having this type of technology versus the damage that it causes? And at what point should we step in and say, we need to make bigger changes than just trying to react at the very end of the chain at the court setting? Maybe we should start at the beginning.
And perhaps this is, unless there are any further questions from the audience, I think I see a hand that was raised there. Yeah, go ahead. I want to cut it short.
Hi, thank you very much. I just have a question. I'm working as a DPO in police, and we usually also give advice to our police officers. And one question what would interest me also as an exchange, what are you doing personally to not get deepfaked? I think that's the interesting point. You can just start with change our behavior a bit, maybe.
Can I answer. I'm hugely against this type of framing because it puts a societal problem to the individual and say like, you solve it. And it's a societal problem. So I think society should step in, for example, with rules or prohibitions. And I'm really afraid, like if we put it to the individuals, and of course there are things we can do and maybe must do, but we are kind of digitally literate here, but that would mean that those who are not full victims. So I think there's a general obligations on all of us rather to push for a more general protective regime. And like Mark already said, maybe put like specific obligations and rules on the tech sector rather than us trying to defend ourselves, because it's no use if you hear like what Mark and Elizabeth said, like one picture is basically enough to create a deepfake point of view. Like, of course, there's going to be some photo of you somewhere on the official website. So it's hardly doable, I think. Yeah.
But I think the question is valid in the sense that it gives an opportunity for someone who's naive and maybe unexperienced to have an entry into a subject matter, which if it's then sufficiently interesting or if it's relevant professionally to them, that they can dig deeper in. So maybe Mark, could you answer that question? What would be the advice that you do as a law enforcement practitioner? How do you try to fact check or verify, or what would you say?
Well, it's a difficult question, and I tend to agree with Bart that it's not a problem for us to solve, but there are indeed measures that we can take. And I think generally it's good practice not to reveal too much of oneself online, because it is difficult once information is out there to control where it ends up. The picture you see here on the panel is 8 years old, so I know it's a deepfake if my hair isn't as gray as it is today. But still, we need to be aware that, as Bart said, there's there are limits to what we can do. Facebook, for example, or Meta, have been accused of training AI systems on pictures that are uploaded by user profiles and by your friends and contacts and so on. So there's very limited room for activity on your side to actually stop this type of exploitation. So what we try to do is raise awareness, especially among younger people, that you should be very careful with what you share online, because it can, and unfortunately increasingly likely will be abused by someone, so that you are at least conscious to the fact that what is online could at some point be abused by malicious actors. But again, having said that, it's very difficult. It doesn't take much to cause harm these days. And I think that's what, when I mentioned education and reinforcing trust in public institutions as a key part here, is because it's just a problem we will have to live with. It's not going to go away anytime soon. So I think a shift in perspective could be useful in just educating people with regards to this new reality that we all have to deal with.
Yeah, so the shift in perspective being that we don't by default expect that something is real, but that our default setting should be, it is more probable than not that it is probably fake, and we should trust things that we have verified. Would you agree with that?
Okay, yes. So individually, I agree with Mark that we should be cautious, super cautious what we upload. But you know, on the whole, also states could organize awareness campaigns. I'm fully in favor of awareness because, as the previous panel discussed, young people do not care if everyone sees them online, but this is only until they become a real victim of deepfake. Then everything changes. So young people, I think, they think that they know, they think that they are aware of the dangers, but they're not in reality.
Of course, it's also difficult to be aware of the dangers that do not exist today, and that could only surface in 5, 10 years, months, weeks, who knows. Yeah, I think there's one more question.
Hi, thank you for the very interesting debate. I don't have questions, I just have 3 remarks. First of all, I really enjoyed the remark recently about technology, and I think that's a huge problem now. I'm thinking about data protection by design. Developers are not developing with the GDPR or the directive next to them. So I think we also need to raise awareness on that part. Secondly, which is also really important, is it's not only yeah, I agree with the remark about, yeah, that we also should change maybe a bit our behavior. So I don't agree that it's a responsibility for society, because we are society. As a DPO, I work for the data subjects. I want to inform them. I want to raise awareness for them. So I think that is really important. And then I had a third remark, but it's fading away. Well, maybe it was a less important one. Anyway, for me, I think the main thing is data protection by design and data subjects. We must not forget that we work for the data subjects, and that we are all data subjects, so actually we work for ourselves. So yeah, that was just 2 remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and maybe on a closing remark, sorry. You wanted to
No, it's just really short. I fully agree, of course, with data subjects, and that's what we're working for, and they can do a lot. But I'm just a bit skeptical, if I can put it in a political frame. I would say in the end, it's a kind of neoliberal idea that the individual can protect itself, and it's rational, and it's capable, and it's autonomous. And if I look at myself, I'm not rational and autonomous all the time. Even though I know all the dangers, and I act in very stupid ways, and let alone people are less aware of all the dangers and maybe digitally literate. And of course, we should try and invest and engage them and create awareness, and it's better to give a sense of autonomy to them. So that's certainly something we should do. I fully agree with that. But I'm just sometimes a bit skeptical that from a regulatory perspective, it stops there, you know? Then the regulator says, oh, okay, we have data subject rights, and they have the control over the data, and then it is left to the individuals. And I think, okay, this is one thing we should do. And then the other thing we should do is also create protective regimes for those who cannot always save themselves. And especially when you're up against these bigger platforms, the Googles, the Facebooks, where you have to agree to all the terms and conditions if you want to use their services. And basically all of us do, although we don't agree with the terms and conditions. So I'm thinking it should be both rather than one-sided.
The third remark I had was about regulation. I've heard a lot today and yesterday, yeah, we need more regulation, we need more laws, and I'm all for that. But the problem is, we already have a lot of laws. We already have a lot of regulations. And for the data subjects, it's not always clear. So I think we should also invest in more efficient laws and more transparent laws. And also not just keep adding, but also yeah, I remember yesterday we talked also about the AI Act and that it's supplementary to GDPR. And I see in the AI Act a lot of things that are also in GDPR, risk-based approach. And for that, I'm all for, because it's aligned. But the problem is it's not always aligned. And so that is also something I think we should be aware of. Okay, that was it. Thank you.
I fully agree. And I think the EU is doing a good job with all these regulations, but also not because they're not really consistent with each other. But I want to say, like, I agree that we have a lot of laws, but somehow they're not effective. Like, if you see the deepfake porn crisis, I will call it, that's huge. Yeah, we have laws that prohibit making deepfake porns, but they're not effective. Why? Because, as I said, they're ex post, so the damage has already happened. It's too late. So that's why I think, why not create another type of regime that is ex ante, that would say, okay, these type of apps which are explicitly tailored to make deepfake porn, and you know 99% of the use cases is just for illegitimate uses, prohibit them. So that's where I think some additional regulation might be beneficial.
Okay, so perhaps on a closing note, we could also say something positive. So what I have heard is that there are changes that are needed, perhaps in a rethinking. And if I think about the previous session, I think that perhaps the threat of deepfakes represents an opportunity where the most diverse stakeholders that could have ever possibly communicated are forced to come together and to find creative solutions for a problem that is really transversal and affects so many members of society in different ways, and that we have to rethink the procedures that perhaps worked previously, but that won't help us in the future. And I would also invite you to think about how maybe somewhat counterintuitively, deepfakes could also even enhance privacy and protect the rights of individuals. For instance, using synthetic identities in police lineups that are then presented to witnesses so that they would no longer be confronted with previously convicted criminals who could then be subject to stigmatization. So I actually would also challenge everyone to think about ways in which the technology and the output that is generated based on the technology can also be used for good purposes, which is also something that I thought about after having attended the Global Summit, AI for Good. So that's something where I think that would be very interesting for all of you to also participate in, coming together with the tech companies who are not represented here, as I understand. So I don't know, do you have anything to add to that musing of mine at the end?
I would have a positive remark to add, and that positive remark is we have a super huge lunch buffet waiting outside for everyone.
What I thought.
So, and the other
real.
positive, it's real, I think. And yeah, if you're back at 2, enjoy the lunch, use it for networking, and of course for all the questions you still need to shoot to this amazing panel. Thank you very much.